There's a scene in Spirited Away where Chihiro just rides a train across flooded fields, with neither monsters nor dialogue. The rhythm of the train, the reflections on the water, the still passengers. Nothing happens, but it feels like the whole world exhales. That scene is just a few minutes long, yet it stays with people for years. Because in a story filled with gods and spirits, this is the one moment that feels real. That moment stuck with me more than any of the wild spirits or giant creatures. It's such a tiny thing, nothing happens, but it's unforgettable. It feels like real life bleeding into fantasy. And that's what I want to talk about. Why the smallest, most pointless details in world building stay with us the longest. The little things that make fake worlds feel truer than our own. We're in this weird era where every world comes with a wiki. There's lore, maps, timelines, and entire essays explaining how the magic system works. But somehow, fewer and fewer of these worlds actually feel alive. It's like we've traded mystery for manuals. They're impressive and some are really cool, sure, but they often feel very soulless. Everything has a reason, a rule, a chart. You can admire it, but you can't feel it. We build worlds like we're solving equations, making sure every rule checks out, when what we really miss are the messy, unnecessary bits. We've started to hate everything filler and not story relevant, but the things that don't serve a plot or a power system somehow make the place feel human and alive. A kitchen left dirty, a cat crossing the road, someone humming a tune that's never explained. These are the fingerprints of life, the things no lore book can replicate. Because a world doesn't come alive through function. It comes alive through memory, through texture, through a sense that someone lived here long before the story began. Think of the Shire from The Lord of the Rings. The first film spends half an hour showing people drinking, singing, eating, and living ordinary lives. We remember Bilbo's party, the candles, the laughter, not because they advance the plot, but because they make Middle-earth feel like home. When the danger finally comes, we care, because we've seen what's being threatened. The same principle applies to the anime Frieren. The show begins after the heroes have already saved the world. The battles are over. What's left is the quiet, people cooking, sorting books, watching sunsets. The story slows down to show Frieren trying to understand fleeting human moments she once ignored. Watching her linger over a simple flower or an old memory makes the fantasy feel human. The magic doesn't come from spells. It comes from time, from realizing how temporary things are. Another example is The Witcher 3. Sure, there are monsters and magic, but the reason that world works is because of the little things. Peasants gossiping by wells, wind blowing laundry on a line, bar songs echoing from inside a tavern. None of that moves the quest forward, but it's the difference between a game world and a living world. These micro details make you slow down. They trick you into believing the world doesn't need you to exist. When a creator slows down to show soup simmering on a fire, it's not filler. It's saying, this world would exist even if you weren't here. No one does that better than Studio Ghibli. The Japanese call it ma, the space between moments, the pause where nothing happens. In My Neighbor Totoro, you'll watch May nap on Totoro's belly, or wait for a bus in the rain, and it's so mundane, yet it's magic. Because that pause is where the emotion lives. It's the heartbeat of the world. Ghibli doesn't build rules, it builds rhythm. The world breathes. Every sigh, every flicker of candlelight, every small imperfection is deliberate. Someone animated dust motes just to make you feel that time is passing. They didn't have to, but that's the point. Kiki's delivery service spends entire minutes just watching Kiki bake bread, sweep floors, and doubt herself. That's what makes it real. We don't fall in love with her broom. We fall in love with the way she exists. Even Frieren uses that same principle. Episodes end not on battles, but on quiet travel. Frieren stares at the night sky. The camera holds for a few seconds, and we breathe with her. That's when the world feels alive, when it dares to do nothing. We've gotten used to stories that never stop moving, but Ghibli and Frieren remind us that stillness is part of life. You can't appreciate wonder if you never stop to breathe. And behind those moments is invisible labor, A team somewhere spent hours drawing laundry blowing in the wind. Someone shaded in the reflection of water for 3 frames no one will consciously notice. These things aren't efficient, they're acts of affection. They tell you that the world you're in was cared for. It's part of the reason why the new Pokemon game is receiving so much criticism. Even though it might be fun to play, as a huge Pokemon fan, it feels quite soulless and just not cared about. Companies and developers don't think players or fans will notice that, but these things are hidden within these pointless details I'm talking about. That's what separates good world building from great world building. The great ones aren't built, they're tended to. Every pointless detail is a fingerprint left by someone who loved the craft enough to waste time on it. It's why you can feel the difference between a studio film made out of obligation and one made out of care. Care leaves residue. You can sense it. You can feel that in Skyrim, too. Think of how you can just wander into a random home, see a loaf of bread on a plate, a book open on a table, a half-finished letter. You can tell a story from scraps. It doesn't need exposition because the world quietly tells you someone lived here before you. That's invisible storytelling, the art of implying a whole life with one misplaced chair. Even The Legend of Zelda thrives on this. You'll find broken campsites, forgotten ruins, someone's weapon rusting beside a fire pit. The game never explains who they were or what happened. It trusts you to imagine. That's faith in the player's curiosity and faith in silence. The opposite happens when creators worship lore for its own sake. You know the kind, fantasy universes that read like tax law. Once you explain every symbol, every secret, it stops feeling like magic and starts feeling like a school assignment. You don't need to understand every grain of sand on Tatooine for Star Wars to work. Mystery is oxygen. When you tell me everything, you kill the part of my brain that wants to imagine. The best worlds don't explain, they invite. Tolkien didn't write 10 pages about what's west of the Undying Lands, and that's why it feels infinite. It's the same in Elden Ring or Dark Souls. Half the thrill is not knowing. You're piecing together meaning from broken statues and half-buried notes. It's like finding fossils of a world that existed without you. You don't learn everything, and that's what keeps you coming back. We love lore until it starts suffocating us with answers. Sometimes the most magical thing a creator can do is leave something unsaid. Psychologically, this is why pointless details matter. They leave space for us to finish the picture. Our brains love incomplete information. It activates imagination. That's why the silhouette of a monster is scarier than the full reveal, and why a single shoe on a road says more than a 5-minute backstory. The human mind can't resist a mystery with missing pieces. When you see an abandoned cottage in Attack on Titan or a broken piano in Elden Ring, your mind rushes to fill in who lived there, what happened, what they felt. You become a co-author of the world. That's the hidden power of these moments. They make the viewer participate. When Frieren passes through ruins of old kingdoms, she rarely explains them. You just feel time, centuries stacked under her feet. The world isn't trying to impress you, it's just there. That quiet realism gives you space to imagine a history too big for one story. And that participation is what makes the world stay with you. You don't just see it, you live in it. When a story slows down, it gives you permission to just exist. Think about that Spirited Away train scene again. It's not about going somewhere, it's about being somewhere. You're allowed to breathe, to listen, to look out the window. It's strangely emotional because it mirrors the way we actually live. Quietly, aimlessly, and beautifully. That's why we revisit worlds, not for the epic battles or the endings, but for how they made us feel between the events. For the silence after the storm. For the moment someone poured tea and looked out the window. In Frieren, this is every episode. Small talk over a campfire, birds flying overhead, someone remembering an old friend. It's not nothing, it's everything. We don't want escape from reality. We want reality done right. A world where the little things matter, where care is visible. And here's the secret, pointless details are rebellious. In an industry obsessed with efficiency, with constant spectacle, slowing down to draw a kettle, is an act of defiance. It says, I'm not here to impress you, I'm here to make something real. It's the same spirit that makes Frieren linger on a flower or Ghibli animate steam from a bowl of soup. It's care, disguised as stillness. That's what makes them beautiful. They don't try to sell you anything. They don't serve a plot. They exist purely because someone cared. And that care, those quiet moments of attention, are what make worlds feel alive. The parts that don't matter are the parts that make everything matter. Maybe that's why the pointless scene on the train in Spirited Away never leaves your mind. Maybe it's not pointless at all. Maybe it's the point. Because the best worlds don't tell you what happens. They make you feel like you were there. You can smell the rain, hear the tracks, and feel the stillness in your chest. You're not watching, you're remembering. And that's the beauty of pointless details. They remind you that life itself is built on them. That meaning doesn't need to be explained to be felt. Every world worth remembering has one detail nobody needed. That's how you know it's alive. So, tell me, what tiny detail from your favorite world do you still think about?